full moon in Virgo. Let's get to it. So, hello there. Let's just get right out into the middle of things. Sorry, I haven't recorded a video in a long time, and as you can tell, je suis out of practice. I actually recorded a few which started with a far more sort of just palatable start. But here we are. Anyway, so out with perfectionism, in with weird intros. I'm just picking some cards at random right now, but I wanted to start with what I tuned into before we get into this, just as a sense of what would be great to relay to the masses, the three people who are going to watch this, aka. So we've got the full moon in Virgo. Virgo has so many different archetypal sort of octaves to Her Highness, but one of the things that's strongly coming through at the moment is the Hermit aspect. Virgo rules the Hermit card in tarot, and it's really all about that kind of very busy internal world, the wealth of information that they have access to on the inside, the wisdom, the sort of tuning out the outside senses and really going within to kind of dig for all that information. And there's this invitation to put a pause button on any temptation to outsource your guidance, your information, your healing even. Really right now we're being called to look within. It's almost like we are actually at saturation. So all the books we're trying to read, all the information we're trying to absorb, all the videos we want to watch, it might actually be a time to put those away, just momentarily cast any distraction aside. Even it doesn't always have to be, not everybody's kind of on a hunt and hungering for, external wisdom. Some people are just doing that through podcasts or information about world affairs. We all have our different ways of outsourcing our sense of self or our direction or our information, and there's an invitation to just put a pause button on the whole thing and withdraw. And really this is also very much to do with social media. The irony that we're watching it right now, but I don't know if I'm the only one, but I've been having a very tangible kind of aversion to social media. Where I switch it on, I can just feel there's no need for it. And usually, it tricks my mind before I can kind of catch it. And I'm aware all the time that, yes, I need to be mindful with it. But, the scroll holes, they occur. And something that actually happened when I had COVID was I was so weak at one point. And I find it's when you're at your poorest or at your weakest that you suddenly become so aware of what drains your energy versus what gives you energy. And looking at my phone, social media specifically, was just a complete drain. And it felt like only when you have such little reserves can you sense those pulls. And so I'm taking that lesson back to my stronger self and reminding myself that actually, even if we don't feel the expenditure, it's still an expense and it comes at our own one. Anyway, so this is about really going, actually, I have a whole lifetime, possibly multiple lifetimes, parallel lifetimes, goodness knows however many other intergalactic connections, whatever. Infinite wisdom is available from within. And the minute we can just pause and trust that and go within, we will have a wellspring come up, which actually is very much what this looks like, of wealth and health, of wisdom and of healing and of insight that's just ready to present itself, and we don't need to keep saturating ourselves with more stuff. So that's the first thing. Second thing is, again, Virgo themed, decluttering on the inside. Obviously your external space too. Boy, is my space in need of that, and it's undergoing that on an ongoing process basis. But on the inside, it's really important that we recognise the intimate relationship between our external experience of life and how we speak to ourselves, how we internalise our internal panorama, basically, horizon, and how that plays its role in our experience of life, because we can even have the exact same things play out and we will have such a different experience of it depending on how we are relating to ourselves, to the world, to reality. And it often comes down to such basic things, such as self-talk, even just something silly as saying, I'm happy, even in the midst of turmoil of various kinds and mind-made problems, it gives your mind a chance to actually realign itself with that truth that is always available, but that we don't usually give ourselves a chance to connect with because we have so many other real problems to deal with first. And actually, that kind of act of aligning with something far purer and far truer underneath it all gives everything else a chance to align with that. So alignment is the other thing. I've been talking to myself, thinking a lot about alignment and the way it gets spoken about in the sort of realms of spirituality. And it all comes down to magnetism. And so I've been looking and researching more about magnetism, physical magnetism, and looking at what this alignment business is all about. And it's really about getting all of our ions, I don't think that's the word, but ion filings facing the same direction. So magnetism occurs when the poles of each of these, I'm going to say the words wrong, I'm going to say electrons, it's not electrons, those little ion things, ion filings, let's just say, have a north and a south pole. And usually they're in all directions in disarray, and therefore it can't create a magnetic force, because electrical currents will only go through all those things that are all facing the same direction. Hence the same thing when we're looking at batteries. You always have to have them, sort of fanny to willy, if you know what I mean, or to butt crack. You know what I mean? I hope you know what I mean. The direction it has to be. They often say opposites attract, because of this thing where you get told that north and south, or like the minus and the plus, and the negative ions and the positive ions. And it's true, but it's not that those two things attract. That's not what's attracting each other. It's actually that they're facing the same direction. And so the current can go through them, and the magnetic force pulls them together, because the electromagnetic force wants to go through these two aligned physical things, creating magnetic pull. But if you drop magnets over and over again, and all those little ions sort of start going to disarray, you won't be able to get that pull, and you have to realign them using a stronger magnet to align them. And so this is a whole other video, and I'm getting a little bit lost in this. Talking about our own alignment, I was doing a reading for myself the other day, and I got the Five of Swords, Wands. And that is typically the card of internal sort of disarray, arguments, conflicting ideas. I can't speak very well today, I'm very tired. And I was thinking about how, I've been thinking a lot about these ions, and I was like, I know exactly what this means. I need to pull all of those different poles. These are all the little ions, and they all need to go into one direction. I was like, the next thing I need is that Ace of Wands. And I was like, having this internal conversation via the cards, and I knew that it would be the Ace of Wands next, right? Or at least I thought it should be. And the next card I pull is, of course, the Ace of Wands, and I'm like, dang, girl! Anyway, so it's incredibly important to do that on the inside. If we're treating ourselves as magnets, and we understand that we are, basically, everything is to some degree or another, a micro and macrocosm of the same sort of operating system. And we become incredibly powerful when our internal dialogue is aligned with our heart, with our truth, with what really matters to us. And when we don't let our energy get pulled left, right and centre through disempowering thoughts about ourselves, grumbles about our surroundings, our limitations, all those things act as basically just our internal ions all being in disarray, rather than them all facing the same direction. The negative pole facing south, I think, positive one north, and therefore through the alignment of all our internal chitter-chatter and feelings and ideas and beliefs, we create this really powerful force that can really quickly take us in the direction of what we are aligned with. Gosh, I've gone into that one quite a lot. This is why I needed the 90-second reel to keep me on track. So anyway, let's move on. Okay, so what I have pulled already to start with is this bad boy and this young fella. So this is all about organisation, which of course the Virgo adores. This is all about really creating those structures and honouring the kind of systems that, interestingly, I'm seeing this very much as almost like the riverbanks that create the structure for the flow to throw through. And this is the flow. So these two together and create a very powerful system of alignment, because the river, without riverbanks, the water's going to flow everywhere and it's not contained. It's very much sort of looking at the masculine principle versus the feminine principle. You've got the creative flow and the energetics and the love and the exuberance and the vision. Excuse me. And here we have, something that can sometimes be cast as boring and this, that and the other, but that's actually not true. It can be extremely satisfying to create the structures unique to ourselves that are going to support this flow going in the direction that we want it to. Because often when we are too this and not enough this, then we can just we drown in our own creative madness. Can I get an amen? And if we are too this without this, our riverbank drunk. Sorry. Our riverbanks run dry. Who knew that was a tongue twister? So we need both. We need both to really thrive. We need both the feminine and the masculine, the minus and the plus. We need the positive charge and the negative charge in order to create a really powerful and joyful experience of life that is full of our unique signature, as well as, it's the power of directing our thought, really. Okay, so let's pull a couple more cards, shall we? I think we have a child coming to see us. Yes, so what would be useful? Sounds like a scream. For the collective to note right now, and then I'm going to try and keep it short and sweet. Okay, so, got two coming out. Interesting. I'm just going to split as well. Okay, yeah. Right, so this one actually flipped upside down, which we might keep that way. I'm just muttering to myself. Here we got our cardi poos. Now let me talk you through them. I wish there's a pause button on this so I could just breathe and tune in, but never mind. Let's continue. So the first one that jumped out was the Queen of Cups. And again, this is kind of talking more about the mastery of this creative flow, of this energetic flow, this healing flow. And she's holding that cup, that same cup here that's reaching out. It's the masterful sort of octave of creative flow. So it is understanding the power of our emotions, the power of our healing creative force, but not letting it overwhelm us. Look, we have it within a contained form at the same time as having the ebb and flow at our feet, but she's in this throne representing mastery and a regality and a sort of form of grace around the this kind of feminine and magical flow. What came out as well was again this sort of more of the opposite pole of that same thing, that she's here on the shore, she's right up close to the action, and she's masterfully creating and focusing on what she really wants. Here, however, because obviously up close the creative forces really take over, here we have a much higher bird's eye view, but again looking over the shore, and we have these two pillars kind of representing again that kind of riverbank structure that allows us to have this foresight to look ahead, like yes, get lost in the creative flows and get those juices going and create something incredible when in flow and you can't even remember that you need to pee or feed your kids. But here it's let's look at the structure. How are we going to support this kind of interaction with ourselves on a daily basis and not get overwhelmed by it? How can we support the queen? Because the queen, she can show up and suddenly we're feeling masterful, but then the next moment, we haven't had enough sleep or something happens to us, or we've got a hormonal imbalance and suddenly it all goes to shit again. But with a bit of foresight and some structures erected to help support us, it means that even when she goes off for a little adventure, those structures are firm enough to allow the flow of our creativity to come back to the same shores and keep repeating over the same ideas and bringing back that same vision that we are wanting to create in the world. So look, this is kind of looking over the sea, looking ahead at the horizon, getting a bird's eye view, a much further removed thing from this kind of safe and much more sort of built structure of the castle. But at the same, and almost like looking at this phone here as well, you've got this kind of information. You can look ahead, you can plan, you can put things in your calendar, you can set up reminders, you can have these habits that are daily going to keep you on track. But together, this is a really powerful force. So this is kind of reiterating all of that. Here we have, again, this is speaking to that frenzied energy. This is kind of when you launch into, you just absolutely have to get moving. And we do have Aries season around the corner, which can give us a real sense of fire up our butt and wanting to get stuff done. And here again, this is typically, it's a form of combat, you know, it's a form of having to stand your ground, find what your feet, and really stick up for who you are and not let these voices kind of get in your head too much. But again, these forces often can be our own, and this is almost like a taming of these forces. These again representing those kind of all those internal voices that can go in all different directions, and then we lose all of our magnetism. It's almost like taking all the valves out of a steam engine. If you take them all out and they're all hissing in all directions, we don't go anywhere. It's only when you tap them all up again that the force of that steam can take us in a forward direction. That's the similar concept. So these two together, in fact, seem to have that message behind them, that when we can tame all of these different ideas that are going against the grain, and you've got to remember, you've got to be quite strict with yourself. You know, we can validate our feelings all day, which is great, it's important. There's a part of us that really needs to feel heard. And then we have to put a limit to it and say, okay, however, you might be feeling this XYZ about this particular situation, and you're not wrong. It's just that there's also a lot of other truths to choose from that are going to take you in a better direction. They're going to feed your soul in a more direct and readily available way. And more importantly, are going to have you all facing north. You know, if you're going to just keep lending your truth to things that aren't going in the same direction as you, you've got to keep asking yourself, does this make the boat go faster? And if it doesn't, I need to throw it overboard, because it's not worth my energy. It's not worth me lending my energy to this conversation that might feel satisfying because it's righteous, but actually taking it back and going, yeah, you know what, maybe I am frustrated about this right now, but what really matters in the bigger picture is this. And so I'm going to keep my attention on that, keep flowing towards that, keep my heart on that, and that will bring that whole kind of into alignment with that forward vision, and that will take you in a much faster trajectory forward. One last look at this. Yeah, no, honestly, that's what it feels like. The forward direction is amplified by training all of those other thoughts that are in opposition. Okay, yeah, all right, last two. We're looking again at disempowering thoughts and feeling trapped by our own limiting beliefs. And here we have just the invitation to outwit ourselves and to actually challenge this position. These ropes are actually loose, and it's only the fear of it's only like our own mental blocks that are stopping ourselves from feeling like we are able to just wriggle free and take that off. It's a learned helplessness. This card is all about learned helplessness, and we can stay here for our entire life. Like, this is no joke. This archetypal state of mind is one that it plagues humans in all areas of life. Like, sometimes we have this in one particular part of our mind, maybe to do with our relationships, you know, what's possible for us as relationships go, or maybe it's financial. This is very, very classic in financials, energetics. You know, if we think we're stupid, if we don't think we can achieve certain things, or, you know, certain things are just not for us. This is all about that, and this is all about challenging that, being clever and actually opening your eyes, taking some of those swords out, and instead of having them be your prison, use them. You can use them to be cunning and stealth and outwit your own mental mechanisms, because ultimately you do have so much wisdom within. When you do, again, going back to the beginning, tune in, stop trying to saturate yourself with external forces and realise that the power lies within. Okay, now we're going to pause. Excuse me. I wish I could just take a moment. Hang on, do you know what? I'm going to draw one from here, and then we're going to call it quits. Oh my gosh, it's 20 minutes. How do people just come on here and be like, let's just chat for like 4 minutes? Some people can even do a 90-minute reel. Unleash your kindest self. I like that. Oh, another one's hopped out. Attune to the divine. Okay, so attune to the divine and unleash your kindest self. I also originally had a new moon in Virgo come out, which was talking about trust that all will be well. These two are beautiful because attuning to the divine, and that's new moon in Pisces, and we are in Pisces season still, so it's a really beautiful invitation to really go and dive deep into that ethereal world. And right now with the veil being so thin, it's such an incredible time to dive deep into our dream world, to go into shamanic trances, which, you know, is an excessively silly, not silly, but kind of out of reach term for saying just transcend your everyday mind and play with your imagination. And unleash your kinder self. And I think this is really about having that compassion that is often so easy to put out to other people, and lending it to yourself, because the true kindness to others will really only start to come through when we are kind to ourselves first. It's easy to be feeling regrets now, to be feeling critical now. Virgo is very critical and is very good at identifying problems, which is fantastic because we need that. But then it takes it often a step too far by being hypercritical and making us feel shame or anger, or not being able to let go of certain issues that we may have encountered. So unleashing your kind of self is let the lesson come through. Sorry. Let the lesson come through. Take the benefits of being able to assess what isn't working and what needs to change. However, don't take it too far, because that's just going to take you the opposite direction. There's no point to that. Know when to stop and when to unleash kindness instead, and to release gratitude and thanks, and to just be proud of yourself. Alright, I'm going to leave it at that because I can't talk anymore. Spirit's like, shut the fuck up. Alright, love you. Happy full moon vibes. Bye. Drop a comment if this was, helpful.